Over the past 6.5 months, I've created over 620 videos. I think that's more than anyone else in the electric car field. Now, over that period of time, I have spent thousands of hours researching the Chinese car market, the American car market, the European car market, every car market on the planet, the Japanese car market. And all of that research has led me to come to the conclusion that there will be three big players in the automotive market in 2030. And I'll tell you exactly who those are in just a minute. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Electric Viking. Fantastic to have you here on the channel. Welcome to all the new subscribers. If you're new, make sure you check out some of those 620 videos that we have created over the last 6 months. A lot of that content you just can't find anywhere else. And a lot of that content will actually illustrate to you just why I've come to the conclusion that I have, just exactly where the world's automotive market will be in 2030, why I've come to this reasoning, and why I believe there will be three big players and everyone else will be fighting over the scraps. Now let's take a look at the results from the first 3 quarters of 2021 for electric car sales globally. According to Jose Pontes, based on EV volumes data, over 4.256 million plug-ins were sold during the first 3 quarters of this year of 2021. Now in the plug-in category, Tesla remains the top manufacturer, which is quite an achievement considering the focus solely on pure electric vehicles. You need a hell of a lot of batteries, obviously, a lot more than what you need to sell, say, a PHEV. Now, it's also been impressive that Tesla's been able to maintain their position in the market and not lose much market share, considering there are lots of competitors. And all the naysayers keep on saying, yeah, but just wait until all the competitors are coming and they're going to just destroy Tesla. I'm still hearing this comment and seeing this comment a lot. And I'm, to be honest, very surprised by the people who are saying this. I really believe that if you genuinely think that, then you must have some sort of emotional dislike of the company. Has to be coming from emotions because it's not coming from logic. Now, Tesla did lose a few points of market share this year as the overall market is expanding very, very quickly. But they still have a noticeable advantage over second placed Volkswagen, which also lost a little bit of market share. Now in third place was SAIC, which includes the SAIC GM and Wuling joint venture, followed by BYD and then Stellantis. Now, interestingly, there is no more Renault, Nissan, Mitsubishi alliance, who were in the top 5 and were third placed a year ago. Hyundai Motor Group were 4th a year ago, and BMW Group were 5th a year ago. So plug-in car sales for the first 3 quarters of this year. By the way, these numbers have changed over the last couple of months, and I'll talk about that in a moment. First place, Tesla, 627,000. Volkswagen Group in second, 522,000. SAIC, 464,000 in third. Fourth, BYD, 329,000. And fifth, Stellantis with 255,000. Now, while those numbers are interesting, they don't really tell a full picture because by 2030, at least 95% of the entire automotive industry will be fully electric. For reasons I've talked about in numerous videos, it simply does not make financial or logical sense to pay more money to get a hybrid vehicle. And people will shun them because they'll perceive the technology as polluting, as old, as dirty. It'll be like walking into a phone store and buying an old Nokia 3310 or whatever they were called. People just don't do that anymore. Well, maybe 5% do, but it won't be many. So, battery electric only. In terms of all electric car sales, Tesla is far ahead of other automotive groups, although its market share has shrunk over the first 3 quarters to 21.5%. SAIC is in number 2 thanks to huge EV sales of electric mini cars by the SAIC GM and Wuling joint venture. Now, sales there have actually increased over the past 2 months, so their numbers, rather than actually declining, have continued to increase. Then the same goes for, next up, Volkswagen Group. Volkswagen Group is at less than half of Tesla's volume, but it is expanding quicker and it has a 10% market share. Then we've got BYD and Hyundai Motor Group in 4th and 5th place. Both OEMs were accelerating in the second half of the year. BYD significantly accelerating. They increased their electric car sales to around 40,000 per month over the past 2 months, which was a significant increase over the previous months of the year. Like I said before, Renault, Nissan, Mitsubishi Alliance, who were third a year ago, are no longer in the top 5. Number 1, all-electric car sales for the first 3 quarters of the year, Tesla 627,000, SAIC 411,000, Volkswagen Group 292,000, BYD 186,000, and Hyundai Motor Group 140,000. Now, I want to point out that BYD's lead over Hyundai has significantly increased over the past 2 months as they've significantly increased their sales of electric vehicles. In addition to that, BYD is one of the only companies globally that has been able to move away almost entirely from petrol-powered vehicles within 12 months. 92% of the vehicles that they sold over the last couple of months were either fully electric or plug-in hybrids. And I'm talking proper plug-in hybrids, not those pretend ones that they have in Europe. So let's have a talk about Volkswagen for a second, because we need to have a look at their history over the last 12 months, what they're doing, so you actually believe what I'm about to tell you. The Volkswagen Group, which includes Volkswagen, Audi, Porsche, Skoda, Seat, and more, reported a pretty impressive growth rate for its electric car sales. In Q3 2021, they were able to more than double volume year over year to 122,000. That's a 109% increase. Now, interestingly, their plug-in hybrid sales expanded far slower, and eventually they won't have any, because Volkswagen knows that that's not what customers want. Plug-in car sales Q3 2021 for Volkswagen was, like I said before, 122,100, a 110% increase year over year. Now, Europe is by far the largest car market for Volkswagen, but their growth rate was recently the highest in China. In Q3, they were up 315% year over year to 29,000, and in the previous month of October, actually sold about 14,000 pure electric vehicles, which was a significant increase once again. The sales of electric Volkswagen vehicles in China are going up way higher than anyone predicted over the last few months. Why? Well, Chinese auto market is going crazy. The auto market actually, no, it's in a slump, but the electric car market is, well, massively expanding. Every single month we're seeing dramatic increases this year. In fact, in October, 17 to 18% of all vehicles sold in China were fully electric. That means the Chinese electric car market is by far the biggest car market in the world. And obviously China is by far the biggest car market in the world as well. So you can see here, right? Tesla on a roll. Electric car sales going through the roof. They're about to open a factory in Germany. They're about to open another factory in Austin, Texas. Both of those factories will produce a huge number of vehicles. Tesla, I believe, are about to open another factory in China. Well, at least within the next 18 months. I did make a video about that. I'll put a link to that video in the description below. You can make up your own mind whether or not that you think I'm telling the truth. But let's think about this logically. Where is the largest electric car market in the world? Where is the largest car market in the world? It's in China. Where are electric cars accelerating insanely rapidly? Where is the most demand in the world? In China. Where is the place in the world where Tesla can build a factory with no issues, no need for 67,000 permits and 50,000 legal cases like they've had in Germany? They can just build one in China very quickly, very easily, very cheaply, and then start selling electric cars to the world's largest electric car market from that factory. So the next gigafactory, I believe, will be in China. Like I said, I made a video about that. There has been rumors about this happening. Clearly, Tesla need to build the Model A or the Model 2 or whatever you want to call it. I made a video about the Model 2 and the Model A actually as well. I'll put a link in the description below to that video. Where else would they build it but the world's largest micro car market? Tesla in China are going to do the most logical thing, build another factory in the place in the world where it makes the most sense, which is obviously China. Now, in addition to that, BYD kicking goals this year, Volkswagen kicking goals this year, SAIC, Wuling and General Motors with their JV selling the Wuling Hongwan Mini also kicking goals. Now, we have a pretty good idea of the plans that BYD, Volkswagen and Tesla have over the next 9 years. I've made various videos about all their plans. I'm not going to tell you all of those plans today because, to be honest, I'd be going on for an hour, and I don't think you want to sit there and listen to this for an hour. You want to hear the numbers. So first I'm going to give you the numbers for 2020, and then I'm going to give you the numbers for 2030. In 2020, Toyota Motor Corporation was number one with 9.3 million sales, which was a decrease of 11% versus 2019. Second place was the Volkswagen Group with 9.1 million and a decrease of 15%. Third place was the Renault Nissan Mitsubishi Alliance with 7.8 million sales and a decrease of 23%. In fourth place was General Motors with 6.8 million and a decrease of 11.5%. In fifth place was Hyundai with 6.4 million and a decrease of 11.7%. In sixth place was Stellantis with 6.3 million and a decrease of 17.7%. In seventh place was Honda with 4.4 million, which represented a decrease of 14.8%. In eighth place was Ford with 4.2 million and a decrease of 22%. In ninth place was Daimler with 2.5 million and a decrease of 13%. And in 10th place was, surprisingly, Suzuki with 2.5 million, which represented a decrease of 11.6%. Now, of Toyota's sales, Toyota sold 7.9 million, but they also had Lexus, who did 720,000, and Daihatsu with 693,000. But where did Toyota's sales actually come from in 2021? Which countries were buying their cars? Well, Asia, excluding Japan, was 2.8 million. So what's that? Nearly 30% of all cars sold by Toyota were bought in Asia. If you add Japan to that, you've got an extra 1.5 million. Now, of those vehicles sold, 1.8 million were purchased in China, 244,000 in Thailand, and 183,000 in Indonesia. 2.4 million Toyotas were sold in America, in the United States, and in Europe there were around 1 million sales. It was a bit of a different story for Volkswagen in 2020. Of the 9 million cars that they sold, 4.1 million were in the Asia Pacific area, including 3.85 million in China, and 3.6 million were sold in Europe. North America, there were only 785,000 sales of Volkswagen Group vehicles. So now that you've got a good idea of where we're at in 2020, I'm going to tell you where we will be. I've got a crystal ball, by the way, so I know exactly, in 2030. This information, by the way, is based on me reading, I would say, thousands of articles over the last 6 months, not just about Tesla, not just about Volkswagen, not just about BYD, not just about China, not just about America, but about everywhere. Now I'm going to include access to a Google spreadsheet for you. I'll put a link in the description below so you can check out where my numbers have come from. And it will show you my projections for different years for different companies. Some of those are more detailed than others, but if you want to have a look, you can have a look. Now in first place, we have Tesla. Tesla will be the world's largest automaker in 2030. That I am willing to bet everything I own on. Why? Because Tesla is the one company in the world who is preparing for 2030 better than everyone else. That includes BYD. And by the way, as you all know, if you've been watching this channel for a while, I love BYD and what they're doing. But Tesla is preparing for this better than anyone else. And it's for one reason alone, and that is battery supply. I made a video about all the battery supply Tesla is shoring up for the next 9 years. I'll put a link in the description below to that video. And this matters more than anything else. Why? Ultimately, what it's going to come down to is how many vehicles you can produce, how much battery supply you have. Tesla is shoring up more battery supply than any other car maker on the planet. They're getting battery supply from everyone, from BYD, from CATL, from LG Chem, from Panasonic, their own battery supply where they're manufacturing their own batteries. And they're constantly in talks with other companies to try and acquire more battery supply. So in 2030, Tesla will sell approximately 17 million vehicles. That would represent 24.3% of the entire global auto sales in 2030, which I estimate at 70 million. Auto sales will decrease between now and 2030. thanks partly to automation, but also to the fact that we don't need more cars. We reached peak car in about 2018, and car sales have been decreasing since then. Second place is equal. Equal second will go to Volkswagen and Byd. Both car companies will produce 8 million vehicles each in 2030. Now, these numbers I'm reporting here, these are only electric cars. It's possible that BYD might produce an additional 1 million plug-in hybrids, possible that Volkswagen will as well, but I'm only reporting sales here of electric vehicles, which I believe will represent 95% of the market at minimum, potentially 100%. Now in fourth place, and I think this is going to shock a lot of people. I think a lot of people are going to say, Viking, you've gone crazy. What are you talking about? I mean, you've said this about Ford. You've said they're going to go bankrupt. And you know what? I'm changing my tune. Ford will take fourth place with 4 million sales. Same as they had in 2020. 4 million sales for Ford for electric-only vehicles. Why do I say that? Well, Jim Farley has drastically changed his tune. If you don't know who Jim is, he's the CEO of Ford. He's drastically changed his tune. He's saying that next year they're going to deliver 600,000 electric vehicles. They're going to invest billions of dollars. I know Ford do have a lot of debt. It's very true. They definitely do. So do Volkswagen. But I believe that they can potentially manage that debt and come out of this alive. Now, Ford will produce, I would say, around about 1 million electric pickup trucks in 2030. So that will be a significant percentage of their total of 4 million EVs produced in 2030. Now in fifth place is the ruling SAIC and GM joint venture. I believe that they'll produce 3 million vehicles in 2030. However, remember, those vehicles they're budget vehicles. Their average cost price per vehicle is around about $6,000. There's not a lot of profit to make on those vehicles. Profit is also very dependent upon state subsidies coming from the Chinese government. So I think those subsidies will actually halve. The Chinese government's been talking within the last 2 days, removing this. They've got this problem not problem, but there's this thing right now you can double dip. So if you buy the brand new model Wuling Hongwan Mini, you can get the actual automaker gets a credit of $996, and also the buyer gets a credit of around about $2,000 because now the range is longer and it qualifies for additional incentives. So the government are looking at removing that double dipping, and that will happen at some point. And these are cheap cars, but the whole point, they're cheap. People can afford them. And right now, car ownership in China is actually extremely low in comparison to the West. That will change over the next 9 years. And these are the perfect cars for people who can't afford a more expensive car. The perfect cars for people who don't currently own a car. So let's just quickly recap. We've got Volkswagen with 8 million sales in 2030, 11.43% of the global car market. We've got BYD with 8 million sales in 2030, 11.43% of the global car market. We've got Ford with 4 million sales in 2030, 5.7% of the global car market. And we've got Wuling SAIC and GM joint venture with 3 million sales in 2030 and 4.3% of the car market. Now in equal fourth place, we also have General Motors with 3 million electric car sales in 2030. Now, the only reason I don't think GM will go bankrupt is because I believe that General Motors and Ford will both be bailed out by the United States government. You know why? Because America is the world's reserve currency, and when they want money, they simply print it. I know that's led to a lot of inflation this year. Massive stimulus has been used by America, United States for many years now, decades really. They're going to keep doing that, and they're going to keep propping up their automotive industry because they need to. And they know that it's going to survive based on stimulus, more than likely, but it will survive. So General Motors will produce 3 million electric vehicles in 2030, representing 4.3% of the entire global car market. In sixth place, we have Hyundai and Kia with 2 million sales, or 2.86% of the global car market. Now, you would think, right? You would think that they would do much better than that, considering right now they are the world's fifth largest EV maker. But realistically, the South Korean government is all in on hydrogen. And their sunk cost bias just won't let them get away from it. It won't let them say, yeah, we just wasted $20 billion on this technology, which is not the future of passenger cars. But, we've wasted all this money. But hey, you know what? Time to be smart and recognize that the future of passenger vehicles and light commercial vehicles is electric, not hydrogen. They won't do that. They're going to continue pouring money into hydrogen vehicles. And Hyundai and Kia have not committed at all to electric vehicles. They certainly make very cool electric vehicles, but they don't make that many of them. And unfortunately, over the next decade, they are not at all planning to commit to electric vehicles. If they do, they change their minds, that's fantastic. But at this point in time, 2 million is the maximum I can see for Hyundai and Kia together in 2030 based on what they are saying and planning. Now, in equal 7th place, we have Geely, which includes obviously Volvo, Polestar, Zeekr, Geometry, Proton, all those brands under the Geely umbrella. Those brands together will sell 2 million electric vehicles in 2030. In 9th place, we have pure electric car maker XPeng with 1.5 million electric vehicles. They could do better than this. In fact, I really hope they do. I'm an investor of XPeng. And you never know. They're actually a really smart company. Their autonomous driving system is insanely impressive. I've made some really interesting videos about XPeng's cars. You should check them out. I'll put some links in the description below in particular the P5, which is a game changer type of vehicle. It is about the price of a Toyota Camry. Now, if you walked into a dealership and you could have a Toyota Camry or an XPeng P5, you'd have to be an insane mad hatter to buy a Toyota Camry. The XPeng P5 is just that good. Now in 10th place, we have Great Wall and their subsidiary brands, including Aura. Aura is a purely electric car brand. They're going global right now. They're on sale right now in Thailand. Will be in Europe soon, Australia soon. They're planning to go everywhere. Now, from what I'm seeing, they will sell 1 million electric cars in 2030. In equal 10th place, we have GAC, another Chinese company with 1 million electric cars. I made a video about the GAC Aeon V, which has a 1,008 kilometer range, probably a real world range of about 750 Ks. But still, that's a pretty damn impressive range. You should check out the video I made about that car and check out the price. This shows you the kind of vehicles you can get in China. The prices they cost are just unbelievable. Equal 10th place as well, we have Chery. They will sell 1 million electric cars in 2030. They are also a Chinese automaker. Also in equal 10th place, we have Chang'an, another Chinese automaker who will sell 1 million electric cars in 2030. Then, again in 10th place, equal, we have 1 million sales for Hozon, another electric car manufacturer in China. I made a video about a very interesting vehicle that they sell for about $14,000 US. Pretty cool car. It's something that I think a lot of people in the West will be interested in buying. I'll put a link in the description below to that video as well. Equal 10th place still, we have SAIC, Chinese state-owned car company, who will sell 1 million electric vehicles in 2030 as well. And then in 16th place, we have NIO with 500,000 electric car sales in 2030. The reason I don't believe NIO will astronomically increase like a lot of investors do is just because their cars are more the price of, say, a higher-end BMW. They're just not affordable for most people, and I think that is a market that will decrease. I think that the luxury car market will decrease in size over the next 9 years. So NIO, 500,000 electric cars in 2030. And then next we have Rivian. I believe Rivian will sell also 500,000 cars in 2030. Now they're planning on 1 million. By the way, I made a video about Rivian's so-called valuation. I mean, I know there's people around who are saying it's reasonable, and I think those people should have their sanity checked, because Rivian says they plan on making 1 million cars in 2030, which they could. They could very potentially achieve that plan of 1 million electric vehicles in 2030. It's possible. They'll probably have a lot of backing from Amazon, pouring money into the company. Ford, I believe, will sell their stock because they know they're overvalued. But Amazon will stick around. That's what Jeff Bezos does. He'll take over the company and he'll invest a lot of money into the company, probably become a 51% ownership, potentially. I don't know. But whatever the case, he'll be the biggest owner for the next 10 years at least. So I don't see Rivian having any issues with liquidity or existing in 2030. Potentially they'll sell 1 million cars. But 1 million cars in 2030 does not come close to justifying their current valuation today. If they were planning on potentially selling, say, 5 million cars in 2030, then you could justify the current valuation. But as is, doesn't make sense. So I think Rivian will achieve 500,000 electric vehicle sales in 2030. Why only 500,000 and not 1 million? Because their primary product, 80% of their products are luxury vehicles. And most people just don't have the money to buy a luxury vehicle that costs an average price of $80,000 US. That's in America. Obviously, if they export them, they'll be more expensive. You have to include the costs of doing that and potentially changing the steering wheel to the other side of the car and all the other things that come, the taxes, etc. Average cost will probably be $80,000 to $85,000 per vehicle, and there's just not a big enough market globally for vehicles that cost that much money. Next up, we have Lucid. This isn't a list, by the way, of order in terms of, BMW, Mercedes, some of these other car makers could potentially still exist and sell more than these companies. But I'm just giving you a list of what I think the car companies who will definitely still exist in 2030 will sell. And Lucid, I think they will still exist. How many electric cars do I think they'll sell in 2030? Well, I think they'll sell 100,000. Why only 100,000? It's much harder to make cars en masse, electric cars en masse, than people think. And if car companies haven't done it before, and they don't have huge backing, then it's even more difficult. Lucid sells very expensive cars. They basically sell Tesla Model S's and Model X's. They cost a lot of money to build. And if you don't have an efficient production line, then it's expensive to make. I just can't see a lot of people buying expensive Lucid vehicles, and I can't see Lucid being able to produce a lot of vehicles in order to bring that price down. They need to manufacture them elsewhere, potentially in China, and potentially get lithium iron phosphate batteries from CATL or BYD, which they don't plan on doing so. There's just no possible logical reason to value Lucid where they're valued right now. And I know there's lots of articles coming from people who claim they're experts on the company and on electric cars and saying that their valuation's great and they're investing their fortunes into Lucid. And those people, well, to be honest, I won't cry a tear when they lose a lot of money because, to be honest, they're naive, they're excited, they're investing on emotion. That's what it's about. So, all those car makers that I've told you, all of them add up to 54 million car sales in 2030. So that means 54 million electric car sales coming from those car makers in 2030. The remaining 16 million car sales of the 70 million total in 2030 will go to a combination of whoever's left. That could be Toyota, Honda, could be Mitsubishi, could be Renault, Nissan, could be BMW, could be Mercedes. Some of those will go bankrupt. There's no doubt about it. If you think they won't, then you're wrong, because some of them will. There's no question. Some of those car companies, when they go bankrupt, they'll just be acquired by Chinese car companies the same way Chinese car companies have acquired other companies in the past. Or potentially by, Tata, who acquired Jaguar and Land Rover and others. That's what will happen. So that'll leave 16 million car sales to be fought over by the rest. It'll be very interesting to see how those manufacturers go. None of them are planning on full electric car sales. I mean, Renault is, but they're part of a group. So how Renault goes itself, it's not really indicative of them in and of themselves because they're part of a group, part of an alliance. So I think Renault could still exist, still do okay, but remember, they're part of an alliance, so that alliance needs to succeed. Can't just be Renault. Now, remember, from 2010 to 2018, electric car sales grew at 60% per year, every year, starting at 1 million vehicles. Just because the maths is easier, this is what it looks like in numbers. Year one would be 1 million vehicles, right? 1 million electric vehicles. These are just arbitrary numbers, by the way, to illustrate the point of exponential car growth, exponential electric car growth. Year 2 would be 1.6 million. Year 3 would be 2.56 million. Year 4 would be 4.1 million. Year 5 would be 6.5 million. Year 6 would be 10.5 million. Year 7, 16.8 million. Year 8, 26.8 million. Year 9, 42.9 million. And year 10, 68.7 million. Now this year, we will sell 7 million electric cars in 2021. That's where we're starting from, 7 million. We're going to see that continued 60% growth that we've seen over the last 10 years. In fact, it's grown a lot more than 60% this year versus last year. In fact, it's double. Electric car sales have doubled versus last year. So we've seen an increase, rather than only 60% for the last 9 years, it's gone up more than 100% this year. So we're on track to actually hit full electric car sales well before 2030. If current trends continue, we would actually hit 100% electric car sales by 2026. So I'm actually being quite conservative here by saying 2030. I could be very wrong. I could be out by 4 years. It could be 2026. You never know. If it's 2026, then all of these numbers could look potentially very different. So here's what's actually happened. The world reached 1 million plug-in electric vehicle sales in 2017. In fact, it was 1.2 million. In 2018, we saw 2 million electric car sales. In 2019, we saw 2 million electric car sales. And in 2020, we saw 3.2 million. In 2021, we will see 7 million. So we had a hiccup year. Something strange happened. But then all of a sudden, electric car sales have come close to doubling for 2 straight years. So I hope this video has given you a good illustration, a good guideline for who will still be around in 2030. This information is all based off hundreds of different factors. If I went into all the different factors, you'd just be bored out of your brains. But remember, the top 3 companies, BYD, Tesla, and Volkswagen, all have very good evidence for proving that they will achieve the car sales that I have indicated. Now, I will put one caveat in here. I think it's possible that BYD could become bigger than what I have explained here. I know that sounds crazy, but remember, there's only one car company in the world that is truly vertically integrated, truly, and that is BYD. And I think that gives them a massive cost advantage over everyone else, including Tesla. I know Tesla has manufacturing that I think is above the level of BYD. Their automation, their machinery, going in at Giga Berlin and Austin, I think is going to be really that next level. I mean, 30% margins, industry average is 8 to 10. That's Tesla, 30%. That is very hard to compete with for anyone. But I think BYD, their vertical integration, the fact that they make their own batteries, that they're lithium iron phosphate batteries, that they make their own semiconductor chips, that they make almost everything that goes into their cars, gives them a significant advantage. In addition to that, they're building battery factories all over China right now. There's 4 new ones that were recently announced. So it's possible BYD could be bigger than 8 million. But I don't see them being any less than 8 million. And I believe that they will be the car company that no one right now has heard of. But by 2030, everyone will be talking about. Thanks for watching the channel. I hope you've learned something. Looking forward to seeing you again on the next one. Bye-bye.